What's going on, everybody? Welcome on back to the channel. For today's video, it is actually inspired by somebody that came to me saying you should make a video talking about who's good in this new competitive mode. I'm struggling to find a character to mainly pick in it. So that is exactly what I'll be doing today. I ended up making an entire sheet for myself. I ended up making, I'll say, 3 classes or 3 roles rather, to put everybody inside. That way you guys can really find out your type of playstyle and how exactly you want to go about choosing your legends for this new competitive mode. Now, before we get started, I'll actually be going over the definition of all the roles that I created. That way you guys can figure out what type of playstyle you guys more so lean towards. First up, we're going to have our strikers. Strikers are going to go on the offense and do your best to overwhelm your opponents without standing pressure. Pretty much picking and choosing anyone and everyone on the opposing team, always looking for a fight. If you just got done comboing one enemy, then you're bouncing on to the next one, and then you're going on to the next one, you're fighting a 3v1, you're doing whatever it takes to disrupt the enemy team's formation and pretty much just be the biggest issue on the field, forcing the enemy to have to deal with you before having to focus on your teammates. Next up, we're going to have zone control. Zone control, you want to be the fortitude of your team, holding and capturing points to have your team progress. In team touchdown, you need to capture many checkpoints before you make it to the opposing team's final checkpoint in order to score a touchdown. Lastly, we have support. Support units are to be at the side of the team zone control unit, or rather whoever may be capturing a point at that given time. These units are to provide cover for those that are capturing the point, being interrupting combos and even defending their teammates from being pushed off the point. Support units are relatively similar to strikers, however their kit allows them to stay closer to the point rather than veering far away from it. Alright, so our first striker is going to be Cindy. Cindy is extremely good with applying pressure as long as you are consistently landing your skill, that being dive kicks or even ground skills, or even doing her bread and butter of ground skill into air auto into air skill. For opponents that are at low HP thresholds, she has a lot of good knockback on her dive kick. So keep this in mind. If you want to be zooming around, definitely choose Cindy. Next up, we have Red. Red is a complete menace, being able to go invisible, do extremely high damaging combos, and even extremely high damaging hits. Unlike Cindy, Cindy is there for extreme pressure, extreme knockback, but Red can confirm KOs a whole lot easier than Cindy can. Lastly, we're going to have Kurenai. Kurenai is pretty much another Red, however he cannot go invisible and does have better mobility than Red does when it comes to being in the air. He is able to do his air skill, jump, air autos, ultimate into more air autos, thus allowing him to stall on points for a very good amount of time, waiting for his teammates to support him. Another good thing about Kurenai is that he is able to delay his autos very well. As you delay your autos, this delays the combo but keeps the opponent in the combo, thus keeping them away from the point for an extended amount of time. So if you want to do combos but you want a little bit better and more verticality options, then definitely go with Kurenai. Moving on to our zone control units, first up is going to be Ravi. Now, Ravi is going to be a striker and zone control unit hybrid. The reason why he is a striker and a zone control unit hybrid is because his ultimate is really good for zone control, and his ground skill going into autos is really good for being a striker unit, being able to traverse around the map and also pull enemies off of his friends to continue doing damage or just being a menace. He's able to run around the map and just snatch people, combo them, and use his ultimate when he wants to capture something. So he's really solid when it comes to zone control. Following Ravi, we're going to have Alice. Alice is going to be a zone control and a support hybrid. Reason being is that although she's really good at capturing the point by herself using her mines, she can also use her mines in a very good supportive way, being able to throw the mine on the point while her teammate is capturing it, and her ultimate is a giant AoE that stuns enemies. So if you want a really good support role and you would like to CC a lot, then definitely choose Alice. After Alice, we have Master Cat. Master Cat is going to be a zone control and a support hybrid. The reason why he is zone control is because his autos are really good at locking out his opponents given how much distance it actually has. His ground skill allows him to lift himself up in the air and also jump out of it, air auto into air skill, so he's able to stall on the point fairly well as well. Now, the reason why he's support is because while his teammates are capturing, he's able to pressure enemies with his autos, and also his ultimate does a lot of damage. So if you want a good mix of being on the offense but also being on the defense with some good stall, then definitely choose Master Cat. Alongside Master Cat, we have Jack-O. Jack-O is going to be a zone control support hybrid. The reason why he's zone control is because he almost has his ultimate all the time. Anytime someone tries to attack Jack-O, be it from the ground or even the air, Jack-O is able to pop his ultimate, have a whole bunch of hyper armor, and hit them off of the point instead of him being knocked off the point, given the fact that again he has armor on his ultimate, just like everyone else does in the roster. The reason why he is support is because he's able to traverse the map with his skill and also use his ultimate to support his teammates who are trying to capture a point at that given time. Overall, Jack-O is just very solid given again how frequently he can even use his ultimate. Moving away from all the hybrids, we now have Brick. Brick is an extremely solid unit to have on your team in order to put down a whole bunch of walls on capturing points. The only downside to Brick is that he's not really able to defend himself and really fight all that well. However, if you are able to support Brick, then Brick is able to really capture points fairly well given the different formations that he can actually place as walls. As you know, you can do an air skill that is a tall wall, you can do the ground skill and that's a short wall, and you can even run around the point to put up walls in different ways. So you could even have like a cross wall or have 3 different walls on the outer, layers of the point. You can get really saucy and really creative with how exactly you put up the wall formations for capturing a point with Brick. Lastly, we're going to have Nui. Nui is an extremely good unit, not only for her AoE, being able to put down her skill on the point, but she also carries with herself a lot of damage, which is unexpected. But if you get hit with her autos into her ultimate or even sunbeams into the ultimate, you can very easily do 80 to 90% to enemies on the opposing team. Lastly, we're going to be talking about our support units, and our first support unit is going to be Goldie. Goldie is an extremely good support unit given the fact that her skill is a projectile that can interrupt enemies, but it also marks the enemies for herself and her teammates to heal off of. Goldie's autos has really good ledge carry, she has an amazing spike, and also her ultimate spikes as well. So she's able to bounce in between her teammates, help them out, make sure that they're getting healed, spike enemies, and pretty much just have really good compatibility. Next up, we're going to have Hook. Hook is a pretty basic and pretty straightforward character. Hook can do a lot of damage if she's not focused, and she's able to interrupt a lot of people. So you just want to stay off the point, shoot your guns, shoot your autos, shoot your skill, and do as much damage as possible while your teammates are able to capture the points. Now I'm going to tie in Robin with this because they're pretty much the same character. It just boils down to your preference. A lot of people believe that Robin is better than Hook. However, that doesn't mean that Hook still cannot put in work, respectfully so. Coming up, we're going to have Snow. Snow is going to be a striker support hybrid. The reason why he's a striker is because he has extremely good damage output and he's able to travel around the map fairly good. He has good mobility and he's also able to zip around with his ultimate, as he does get his ultimate fairly quickly. The reason why he's a support is because, as the support role has been said, is that their kit allows them to stay closer to the point rather than direct strikers are able to. So Snow is able to use his autos, zip back with his ultimate back to the point, use his skill, zip back to the point, and pretty much just stay all around the point supporting whoever is capturing the point at that given moment, and he's able to just fend off anybody. So this is what makes him an extremely good, solid pick for being a striker support hybrid. Next up, we're going to have Rapunzel. Similar to Hook, she is extremely basic and extremely straightforward. Rapunzel can play back, play it safe, play it slow, play it cool, and she's able to stun enemies with her ground skill that has a lot of good distance. Where Rapunzel really shines is the fact that not only can she stun, but her ultimate. Her ultimate does so much damage, and it is also an AoE that can hit multiple enemies. It is extremely good. So if someone is not paying attention to Rapunzel, they're going to get stunned, and while frays are going on and big fights, Rapunzel is just able to pop her ultimate and pop everybody off the map. Alright, so now we have Flare. Flare is Flare, Flare is Flare, and Flare is Flare. Flare is Flare, as Flare is Flare, and Flare is Flare. So if you want to Flare and Flare, 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 then Flare is Flare. Flare is Flare, and Flare is Flare. Flare is Flare, and Flare is Flare. Flare. Next up, we're going to have the Witch Queen. Now, this entire time I haven't talked about abilities, given the fact that abilities are all personal preference. But specifically with Witch Queen, if you do have the jump height ability, she is able to stall so well with this ability equipped. If you hit her while she's in the air, this will actually reset her jump and she's able to stall for even longer. Given how long she's able to stall, this allows her teammates to respawn fairly quickly, or for her teammates to come to her rescue and disrupt any enemies that are trying to attack her. She also has a really good ultimate, being the polymorph, and she also has another ability to where if you do enough damage to her, a polymorph AoE will happen and anyone that's around her will get polymorphed. So her polymorphing plays and also her jump height makes her extremely good for this mode, but if you don't have those abilities, then Witch Queen really isn't all that intimidating. Lastly, we're going to have Maya. Maya is extremely good. She's almost to the point of being a hybrid, but the reason why she's not a striker hybrid is because her fighting capability isn't all that well. So the reason why she's strictly a support unit is because she's able to zip around the map and do just that. She's able to support her teammates in regards of being able to zoom around and use her ground skill, stunning enemies and doing combos to them with her teammates. Given how fast Maya is able to zoom around the map and disrupt enemies, this makes her an extremely good support unit. Alright, before we wrap it up, I want to give a couple of honorable mentions. That being 2 zone control units and actually 2 all-rounders. The 2 zone control units will be Kaiser and Yong. Typically whenever somebody picks them, they're 9 times out of 10 going to get bullied, but their ultimates are actually really good for capturing points. Kaiser, when he pops his ultimate, he will not flinch from any attack unless he gets stunned, thus allowing you to attack opponents off the point and you are able to stay on the point to capture it. Similar to Yong, when you hold down the ultimate button, he will spin in place for a certain period of time, then launch himself up in the air to do a slam upon coming down. If anybody is on the point, they will get knocked off, and it is just really good for, again, capturing points. For the all-rounders, if you aren't feeling too well with being a striker, a zone control unit, or even a support unit, then you are able to do all 3 with these 2 characters, that being Molly and also Peter. Molly is able to zip around the map and just be a menace to society as a striker. She's able to zone control given the fact that she has an ultimate that literally counters everything, and being able to shoot a shockwave back to opponents, knocking them further away. And she's also able to support given that she has a really good auto string lasting fairly a decent amount of time, keeping people off of the point and knocking them away. If they're off of the ledge, she has a really good spike as well, and she has really good recovery, so that's why she's an all-rounder. When it comes to Peter, he is the poster boy. He's able to do really good damage, he has really good radius on all of his swings, being how wide his sword is, and he's able to do, again, all three. He's able to move around the map to be a striker, he's able to zone control given the fact that he has really good knockback, and he's able to support as well if that's what you do so choose to do. So that's going to wrap it up for this video. Hopefully this helps anyone and everyone out with who to choose and who to stick by and how to read, you know, what your teammates choose and what your opponents choose and actually how to play touchdown. So this is Metsu. Be sure to share the video with your friends, your family, anybody else like that. Help everybody else in the community because that's what I'm here for. Help people, help people, help people. I cannot stress that enough because a lot of people ends up just hating on their teammates versus helping. So this video is for you guys. Again, share this video to help out your fellow teammates. That way you don't get so stressed in comp. I have plenty of more tips in my server and also my YouTube channel, so definitely be sure to check out everything. I will see you all around, have fun, and take it easy.